And I'm so pleased to have two experts with us today. Mary Quibel, he's a CPA, and CITP, he's an Acumatica Cloud ERP expert. He's been working with ERP for years. Many different companies out there, distribution, manufacturing alike. And Mamie Yee, she's a Sage 300 strategist. She's been working with Sage 300 for decades. So we have two experts on the line.
You're dating me.
Well, hey, it's wisdom, right? So a little bit about the speaker. So prior to getting started, just to get acquainted here, Mamie is a dedicated Sage 300 strategist. She's focused on turning complex software ecosystems into streamlined growth engines. Mamie brings hands-on experience solving inventory workflows, optimizing financial reporting, eliminating manual bottlenecks, and she helps teams get more from their existing Sage 300 investment. Her expertise with Sage 300, she can recognize things that you might need, extra functionality that you might need that you don't know is there. So it's great to have you on the line, Mamie, talking about your experience with Sage 300. And then a little bit about Murray. Murray is focused on transforming complex operations into streamlined high-growth business engines. Murray has helps leadership teams migrate to the cloud when it makes sense, and to automate those manual processes and build future-proof technology stacks using Acumatica. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thanks so much again for joining us. We really appreciate you spending time with us. We know it's hard to come by, and we appreciate you being here. Here's the framework that we're going to be following today. There's one story. There's three possible outcomes generally when it comes to ERP and your current experience and your current ERP platform. Do we want to use more of what we already own? How can we really maximize Sage 300 to make sure that it's accomplishing what we need it to do, that it's the right fit for our business? Is the value locked behind training, configuration, or unused functionality? So how can you exploit what you might not know is there in Sage 300 to continue to scale and grow? That's the question a lot of organizations might have. Or do we need to extend Sage 300? Do we need to close those targeted gaps? Do we need to find more Sage 300 add-ons that might extend what is available out of the box? So there's modules, automation, reporting. ISVs are those add-on solutions. So you might need some add-on solutions for AP or AR, or maybe you need a manufacturing solution. So there's things that you can add on to Sage 300 to extend its functionality to address needs that you might have outside of what is available right in the box of Sage 300. Or is it time to consider an option? Is it time to move off of Sage 300 entirely? So how do you recognize true platform fit issues? That's what we're here to discuss today. And it might be time to consider a cloud solution because you have so many remote employees and multiple locations, and you've outgrown what Sage 300 can actually provide for you. So there's some signs that you might recognize where you might look to options to replace Sage 300, but that's a very careful analysis that would need to take a lot of scrutiny. So, I mean, maybe you want to move to the cloud, real-time visibility. Maybe you need more manufacturing capabilities than what Sage 300 can offer. Maybe you have more scalable growth requirements to justify evaluating something like Acumatica or a modern cloud ERP solution. So depending on your situation and your unique requirements, that's what we would need to determine, and that's where it's nice to have experts that work with multiple companies understand what you're currently experiencing and to see what kind of degree that you might need another solution. So ERP pain is a clue. It's not a conclusion. So before migrating to a new platform, we need to classify the root cause of each pain point and see if we can exploit the functionality to the highest degree in our current system. And today we're going to be talking about Sage 300. Is it configured correctly? Does Sage 300 functionality exist in your system? You're just not seeing it, you're not experiencing it. So do we need to change the settings or workflow so we can become more in alignment? Is it a training issue? Do you have new employees or users that don't know the intended process or capability that Sage 300 can provide? Is there a process design issue? So do you have business processes that are too complicated that an expert might help you in simplifying it, that business process, so that Sage 300 can address and automate your processes? Are you missing any functionality that maybe an add-on to Sage 300 might address so that you can get the most out of your Sage 300 system? So that would be a defined gap that could be closed with an enhancement that's designed for that specific requirement. Or, worst case scenario, but best case scenario, your company is growing, you've outgrown the capabilities of your Sage 300 system entirely, and you need now to take the next step into a more scalable solution. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let Murray and Mamie get started with their side of the presentation. So Mamie, could you go ahead and kick it off with Sage 300 and how to go through a health check?
Hi, welcome to this webinar here, and hopefully you'll get some great information and kind of some directions with regards to, really looking at your system, taking that time to look at where your system is at and where your processes are at. So one of the things I usually recommend to clients, especially if they've been on Sage 300 for quite some time, is because of the licensing modules, is licensing ways that have changed over through the years, that you look at, really find out what you actually purchased, and then find out what's been installed on your system and what's been activated in your data set that you're working with. So most people may not really look at that. They're really relying on their consultants to go through that process. They may not, but that's always a good thing. I find that that's one thing is people have purchased products, purchased modules that they are licensed to, but that because of how they've continued to operate and not taking the time to look at what they've been currently working on doing, that they haven't looked at maybe changing their mindset of how things can be done, where it can be a little bit more streamlined, where the information can be more centralized and accessible to people. So I don't know if you know how to look at it. But you can look into the system and look for the system modules. Another thing that you look at is just once these modules are installed and activated, is how it's being configured and being set up, because that does make a difference in how settings are created, settings are implemented and coded, where information is placed that can flow through to make information more useful, and who's accessing it. Especially if a client has grown, where it's a small business and they have grown into this product that they don't know about just security rights that can be opened up to different people, as well as that the workload can be spread and to be more um, um, placed, entered into the system on a more timely basis. So find out what, who's actually needing to use the system and what they're using. An example is, say, for instance, you have your shipping manager where they're receiving products into the system. They're receiving products into their warehouse, but they hand over the paperwork to the accounting staff. You can, with security, and security access and installation access, give that person access just to receive the product. So that way it goes into your inventory to allow users and to be able to see how much is in stock on a more current time frame, a more active time frame. So once you log into your system, usually most people have access to it. You can go into your help here and look about what Sage 300 is, and then look at what your system information. I'll share license. Yeah, system information. So when you're looking at this screen here, you can see that what if these are named, that means these are the active modules that have been installed on the workstation or on whichever workstation that will have that the product's installed. As you can see, I have a lot of modules installed, and there are a couple that look like this. That means the software is not installed, but you can find out what's installed and what's not. And then when you're looking at here, this ID identifier will identify what modules are active and for this particular data set. So you may have multiple companies installed. So depending on what your needs are for and what type of operation for your company is, that may be different. Okay, so that's always a good thing to audit that to find out what has been installed on your system. And then with that, you should compare it to your, I guess, compare that. So that's what you've have in your system logged in, and then you should compare it to what what you've actually purchased. So getting your invoice or contacting your consultant or Sage with regards to what you've been built, what you've been invoiced for, and what you have active licensing for. That will help with you to determine, okay, what you can use. This can from there help with this is where you can then decide on, hey, rethinking some of your processes. I've had situation where clients, because they've been on it and their processes and staffing and licensing change, that they had access to an accounts receivable module, which they did not implement, but they had been paying for it. So that always puts into play, okay, can we consider that? Because they've been doing their invoices to their clients on like Word docs and sending those out instead of using the ERP system to keep track of, in doing invoicing and then keeping track of who owes them money so they can collect funds on a timely basis. And that really helps with cash flow, especially in the current business environment nowadays. Okay, so this is one of the for licensing, there are really two main bundled licensing that we kind of do with Sage, and underneath that you might be purchasing a financial bundle, and these are the financial bundles. In the financial, these are the modules that are included in that license. You can also purchase by the modules. That's how it was originally, but they are doing more. They're finding now that people are kind of either they're purchasing the financial bundle or they're doing a bigger where they're doing the distribution bundle. So please look at that to see which bundle licensing that you are on, and to allow for, say, hey, oh, we have licensing, can we use that? What are we what have we purchased and what have we installed? Okay, some things that you really need to look at, and that, like I said with the example, like making sure you're on what you've purchased, getting upgraded, are you on the current version? Sometimes people, may, because it does take some planning to upgrade from what they're currently on, that they should look at upgrading. It helps really to maximize what kind of functionality you have, as well as what kind of options you have. So reporting, how are you reporting your information? Is it offline, or can we look at something that's in the system that, maybe not 100%, but can be used because it's better and it's more timely. Next thing is to look at your security access. Like I said, an example, maybe your staff is looking and say, oh, I can't do this, or I can't, whatever they can't do, whatever can't report. Maybe you might have to look at the security. Maybe there is the functionality, there is the access to it, but that particular person doesn't have access to it due to security. And that might be something that you might have to open up, or you might also have to look at, staffing that, oh, they have too much security, too much access to too much information, that you want to restrict it. So that way you can control what they're doing and what they're entering into the system. Look at inventory. So we do have a very strong inventory and distribution modules in Sage 300. So looking at that really does help, increase visibility to your staff and operations. Say, for instance, your sales staff, they're the front people that are generating the income for your company, and giving them access to what we call the order entry module, and them accessing how much they can see, how much is in inventory, as well as they can start to place their orders into the system, so that way people can access. So I would really look at for people to really look at what they are doing. How are they entering things? What things are being recorded or tracked, especially outside. We love our spreadsheets as accountants, and we love our spreadsheet because you can pretty much put whatever you want, but it doesn't always necessarily, it's not always accurate, because there is so much human intervention and human error in it. So really looking at that, and while you're documenting that process, maybe the lack of is because the options aren't set up in the system, or it's not, or maybe you need to expand on what you need. There are a lot of other specific, we call ISVs, where it's specific to industries, specific to needs that are very unique, and those can integrate into your current Sage 300 system. That really can maybe clear up some things that you're tracking on the side. And a lot of times the main thing is history and training with staff. We have, when you're turning over staff, the staff learns, oh, okay, just do it this way because that's what's been taught and that's what it always has done. And really, you should look at always reevaluate why are things being done the way they are, and can it be rethink, looking at it in a different angle, different perspective to be able to maybe move it into the system. Like I said, if maybe a module wasn't implemented or activated, oh, okay, can we use that? How can we look at it on our external processes that we can use that to maximize what we have? Like I said, you really look at, what are you using outside? Like spreadsheets, can that be replaced with somewhere in the system to get better reporting? Are there workflows and approvals or any of the stuff that's offline that we can kind of work into the system? So there are a lot of like um, approval processes and external things that you can use, external softwares that can integrate with the system to make it a much more, make the flow better, make the controls better in terms of what we want to get and use our system. So really, it's to really try to maximize, what you have or what you don't have, and find out what you can move to make it a better thing. Like we all have workarounds, and sometimes the workarounds are just because certain functions weren't available previously, but with upgrades and new systems, that workaround is now really can be put in the system and is really actually obsolete to have used the workaround. Okay, so on this, it's okay, how can you start to um, look at trying to maximize your Sage 300 solution? I mean, start with training. Training is usually where you can, it is, like I said, low disruption to the staff, but it is usually the unfortunate, like that's where most people put the least amount in, is the training. And the training is really where you can find out where things are lacking, where things are and how to use the system. Um, some examples I've had, people have been using certain functions, but they've been trained to use a certain function a certain way, but there could have been a simpler way or a more efficient way of like putting information in. Um, I've given examples of like, suggestions of how we can code information in, and that way it flows through especially when you're looking for the searches, when you want to use the search features to find information. Um, Going into your configurations and settings, um, that of course always take it with some care and due diligence, where you might not, you have to know what the function is. I usually have most of my clients, if they have the solution installed, is to also set up a what we call a test or sandbox data set for them. So that way, if they want to look at the configurations, to be able to look at that and test it before they put it into their live system. So this can improve process. So this will be improving processes and trying to automate things, and great. And once you go through a lot of this, this is where you'll like look at, okay, is now your system going to be, if you can replace it with another component, another functionality, clean up the processes, and this is where you'll like whether it's going to be still sufficient for your operations and to continue to use this solution. Okay, so now once you've gone through a lot of that and reevaluating what you currently have and what are some options you have, is whether to, is now, okay, now are there real now deal breaker constraints to what Sage can offer to you, and what the company, what your company is wanting to do. And these are some of the things that you may consider in terms of, okay, here's how Sage is, here's what I can do, and is my company moving in a direction that I need something more robust and something like that, or it's just not sufficient enough, and that we need for growth in the company, whether we need to look at another platform, and whether it needs to scale or be in a different way. So from here, okay, so from here, one of the constraints is whether it's real time or whether you're batch. Sage is in most part a batch system. Some of the great things with that is that you can enter things in and have it hold till you can see if you need to add more things, or whether you need to check it, make a double check in terms of posting to make sure information in it. So you have your whoever enters it in, but you also have the flexibility where you have oversight by somebody else who will control when to post that. Maybe when especially for when you're transitioning from a submodule into your GL, some that does make a difference, where if they catch it after a posting is done, they can catch it and correct it in your GL. One of the things Sage 300 is known is for their day-end processing, especially if you're working with the distribution modules, is that some of the GL entries and some of the costing for your inventory module doesn't become effective from your invoicing till your day end is run, even though quantities are pretty much updated immediately. And that sometimes can or cannot affect if you want to do reporting on the GL side. That will be, there'll be probably a 24-hour delay in terms of how it impacts onto the GL, as opposed to maybe a cloud solution where you can connect once you post it, it happens immediately, but and your changes are immediate. And that might be something that, with the business environment now, the information and impact in real time is much more critical than it used to be. Okay, I am going to put this to my counterpart here with regards to Acumatica.
Yes, thanks, Mamie. So we're going to talk a little bit about Acumatica. And like Mamie mentioned, is that the decision points around considering a new application would be, let's first look at what you have and see what you can do to leverage it. But if it looks as if that you've kind of reached the limits of that application, then maybe it's time to look at something different. And so we'll kind of walk through a bit of a decision framework in some upcoming slides. One of the applications that we are going to talk specifically today about is Acumatica. Acumatica is a cloud ERP platform. We became an Acumatica Gold Certified partner in 2010. So Acumatica is a relatively new application. It's been around a couple of years before that. What we went looking for, so that we've highlighted 4 points regarding Acumatica. So in 2010, I've worked with other procs in the past from different vendors that have been around for a while. But we went looking for something that was true cloud-based, and Acumatica was developed from the ground up as a true web application. And what that means, it didn't port code over from pre-existing client server applications. It was born in the cloud using current web technologies. And so there are some business benefits, including performance and security, that come with that. So that's the first point, is cloud access. The next thing is, of course, functionality. So Acumatica is designed and targeting mid-sized companies that are looking to grow. And one of the areas is manufacturing. So, Acumatica at its core has financials and distribution functionality. But one of the things that sets apart Acumatica is that it has a manufacturing functionality as part of its core native functionality. So this includes bill of materials management, including engineering change orders and change requests, production management with real-time transaction entry of labor costing, materials, overheads, and that kind of stuff. And then, of course, real-time movements across the warehouse and the inventory transactions based on the completion status of the work orders. This includes outside processing. So, for example, if you have to send glass out for coating and then let that be processed by a third party and then bringing it back. So we support full outside processing around that. So again, manufacturing depth, including material requirements planning, and that of course is one of the benefits of having it completely embedded in the application, is when you need to do, say, automated purchasing based on material requirements, planning variables, and that can generate purchase orders, receive the goods, and then automatically create accounts payable invoices and then flow straight to the financials. So that's one of the benefits of having it manufacturing embedded into the core application. Real-time operations. And again, the thing I will comment specifically about, I mention it all the time with our customers and prospects, is the function of real-time is a function of how integrated your applications are. We always like to capture operations data once at the source. And that, if you're an inventory distributor, that would mean a warehouse transfer, a goods receipt, a warehouse, a shipment, based on a sales order. Those would be real-time transactions. If your business is construction and more project management, those could be time card entries or purchase orders against a product, or other kind of project entries. Again, what we're looking for is capturing those when they happen in the field in real time. And then the perfect scenario is where you capture that transaction once and then it flows across the whole system. So that becomes real-time operations data capture, but then you can report on that. It flows straight to your financials. You can do dashboard reporting based on that, and it all becomes current, actual information rather than kind of after the fact spreadsheets. And we've all been in meetings where everybody shows up with their own spreadsheet and who's got the right numbers. So we want one source of the truth, and let that be based on real-time operational data. The last point is the business-focused pricing. Now we're going to get into that in the next slide, but what we're referring to there is unlimited user-based pricing based on what the business needs. Again, we're going to detail that a little bit further in the following slide. If you can move it forward, please. Okay, with the Acumatica Cloud ERP, there's the first component of the licensing is users. And so what we have is unlimited user licensing. So what we want all users of the system to be able to access the system without limitations. Now that includes if you're a full user, a high volume accounts payable user, or a high volume purchaser that's hitting purchase orders all the time, or if you're in processing a lot of inventory transactions in the shop floor. Again, high volume users like that, but also maybe an executive that only looks as a dashboard, or maybe one user that's only entering a time card or entering shop floor information off a kiosk. Again, we don't want there to be limits. We want all people using the system. So that's unlimited user pricing, and not constrained based on additional user counts or anything like that. The basic pricing variables become with the industry editions. So that's kind of the packaging and module section. So Acumatica has bundled up certain features based on the industry functionalities. And so the core editions are the distribution edition and the manufacturing edition. It gives you the modules you need, and then there's one price that goes against all that. We can purchase additional modules on top of that, but the core functionality is included within those modules. The last point is around a true fully inclusive software as a service subscription. So you don't need to worry about hardware or client access licenses or database licensing. It's a fully included software as a service subscription. That's a little bit about the Acumatica licensing. Maybe do you want to comment a little bit further about the Sage licensing in the same categories?
Okay, sure, thanks. Okay, so with Sage, as Sage is what we call concurrent user licensing, where you buy licenses for how many people you want to access in the system at the same time, and they will access the modules that they're set up with regards to security. Now, that doesn't mean what that means is you can have a lot of user profiles set up in the system, but any one time logged in to access the data is by how many the concurrent user licenses they have. So say, for instance, I might have 10 user profiles set up for different departments, but at any one time to access the system, the Sage 300 system is, if you're licensed for 5, that means only 5 of those 10 people can access the system. So at that point in time, you'll need to request, if somebody needs to get in, you'll have to ask somebody to either log off the accounting system, or your other option is to purchase more additional concurrent user licenses. So that's, but there is no additional in terms of costs, in terms of the licensing. And so with regards to the packaging, with regard to the licenses, it's based on, mainly it's right now based on the packages that you bought, which we showed, or in the earlier one, if you bought the financial package, you'll get access with licensing for that concurrent user for those modules, as well as if you're on distribution. Now, some of the ongoing costs that you have, we do have like subscriptions for the ongoing upgrade costs for the software. And then, of course, if you're on premise, that means you're looking at making sure that you have your servers and workstations and stuff like that. And that's going to be your additional costs that you have outside of the subscription of software, as opposed to the SaaS subscriptions.
Maybe I'll just summarize this. The licensing, basically, in terms of functionality, if you compare Sage 300 to Acumatica, if you think about the financials and distribution, I would say for the most part, you're getting similar functionality. So those are in terms of the business functionality, in terms of the types of transactions you can process and things like that. On those two levels, similar types of functionality. Again, Acumatica has been designed as a mid-size application, similar with Sage 300, and so therefore, as a minimum level, it does keep track of those types of core functions. Probably the biggest difference when we're thinking about manufacturing distribution businesses is then with Acumatica, it's part of its core application. So it's native and built in and developed by Acumatica. And so there's some benefits with that, as I mentioned in the previous slide, around real-time costing and just integrated processing and making sure that that you're not having to enter the same information more than once.
Okay, just a little bit on here with Sage 300. Sage 300 doesn't have as their core modules manufacturing. So we actually rely on for manufacturing, rely on a third party. There are a number of third parties that are in the industry that integrate with Sage 300. And for them, they have their own also licensing policies, which will be in addition to if whatever Sage licensing that you would purchase.
So the question is, do you stay on Sage 300 which if your users have adopted it, they know it well, everything's going smoothly, that's the logical decision, is to stay. Or do you need to extend your solution? Maybe you've added manufacturing to your business or assembly, and you need project accounting or job costing that isn't available in Sage 300. Then maybe you need to, consider an option to replacing Sage 300 or add new functionality onto the base system. Or do you want to make the move and go with a solution that might be able to accommodate your growing requirements? That's the decision matrix, and that's the decision that's in front of you. Do we maximize Sage 300 to fit our current environment? So do we have our core needs met in Sage 300? Are there gaps that we need to identify to help us maximize our utilization of Sage 300? Maybe it's user training. Maybe it's improper configuration that needs to be corrected. Maybe we can get the reporting we need with an expert like Mamie. Maybe we can pull together reports if we lean on an outside provider that can get us where we need to go. Or do we need a new process design, new business process assessment to see if we can get some more functionality? So optimizing Sage 300 is the first step. Maybe you don't need a whole new solution at all. Maybe you don't even need an add-on. Maybe you just need to maximize your experience with Sage 300. Or do we need to extend our Sage 300? So what available add-ons are out there that can extend the foundation that you're currently experiencing with Sage 300? Are there distribution add-ons that might help you understand optimizing your inventory management that can extend outside of Sage 300? Are there manufacturing add-ons that can help you if you're manufacturing? Are there online e-commerce add-ons? That's the question, so that you could stay in your Sage 300 system that's been working with you for years. Or is it time that you need to consider stepping outside of Sage 300 and working with something that's going to help your company continue to grow and not hold your company back? That's the decision. So if it's time to make that change, it's time to evaluate new systems, and one of those systems are Acumatica. So you've changed your requirements because you've outgrown some of the functionality that's even available in Sage 300. So now you need to consider your requirements and see if a more cloud-ready solution might be a good fit for you with the real-time visibility, everything integrated into one system where users can log into the system worldwide, and it's just available, hosted out there in the cloud. That's where you need to really look at your business and build a case and an understanding of what it's going to take to get you to that next level in your business. But that's a great opportunity because that means you're growing. And so in order to continue to grow, there has to be that change. So there's typically a 30-day follow-up plan. You can follow some practical steps here. So with Mamie, we really recommend that you work with her to run your Sage 300 health check and your current license review. So she can help you go through that process to see where you're at. Map your top 3 workarounds and classify your root causes for any difficulties you might have, and then maybe develop some workflows and workarounds that can correct those causes. Estimate the value of training, configuration, automation, all of your modules or third-party add-ons, which is ISVs, integrated software vendors, that will extend the functionality of your current Sage 300 system. And Mamie can help walk you through that to make sure you're getting the most out of your Sage 300 system. And then if it's decided between you and Mamie that you need something more comprehensive than what's available in Sage 300, then you will want to consider a new solution. And that sometimes takes time. So that is also a process, and that's where Murray would come into play. He would help you understand how to maximize your understanding of where Sage 300 is a good fit, and how to understand how Acumatica might continue to be a good fit in those areas that Sage 300 is currently a good fit, but also help you expand and grow. And so Murray's going to walk with you through that process. So what we'd like to do is schedule a consultation with Mamie to see what you're currently doing, a health check. And also, if you're ready to consider an option, we'd love to schedule a consultation with Murray. That would be the next step. So we will be in touch with you to see how everything's going and if we're ready to take that next step. And we do have some questions. Mamie, you talked about this question. Looks like it's from Sam. Thank you so much, Sam. Mamie, it looks like his question is about posting batches. So Sam is asking, our Sage 300 system relies heavily on posting batches, especially in GL, AP, AR, and inventory. Can you help us understand how that might be holding us back, and how Acumatica, Murray, can provide more of a real-time scenario? So that's a question for you, Mamie, first. Is there a workaround?
Yes, in general, the system is what we call batching, in terms of you can put a bunch of work together into a batch and then process it and review it and then post it. And that kind of flows through the modules. So sometimes there can be a delay, depends on what kind of controls you guys want and how much it is. But there are settings where you can maybe stream slide some of that to be more timely. So say for instance, you can post like immediately, and it goes immediately into the GL, into a batch to sit there, and that can happen pretty much right away. So the manager who's in charge of the GL can then determine when they want to post it, or you can always have that automated and it goes through that. So that's there is some pros and cons with that, where pros, if you don't have it automated, that you can have a little bit of a control, that you can do some adjustments if needed, especially if you're aware of it. But if the system's set up and it's pretty smoothly, if you set it up to go, it can be timely and happen immediately. So you can see, if you run a GL report, you can see it right away. But it does, once you've kind of clicked that post, it does take a little bit more time to generate and post across all the modules. So you can get kind of a hybrid with regards to your batching and kind of a simulated real time.
Yeah. Regarding batch processing and real-time data, so Acumatica, it has some, kind of same that Mamie mentioned. There's some ability to control, the how and when data gets processed and posted. Acumatica, everything is all transaction based. It's got full audit control of all that. So So there are batches and transactions, of course, that are done behind the scenes. So everything is auditable. You can, in some cases, do transaction reversals. Of course, that would follow an audit trail. It's not just replacing it like you might get with some entry-level systems. You are, full audit trail of the adjustment transaction. So yeah, with Acumatica, you can, again, as I mentioned, the real-time nature of data is if it's fully integrated, then if it flows automatically, but there are checks and there are transactions that are governing all those.
It looks like we have a question from Robert. Thank you so much, Robert, for your question. We are a Canadian company and we do a lot of multi-currency across the North America. How does Sage 300 compare? Our current use with Sage 300 really handles complex multi-currency revaluations, and it helps us with multi-entity GL consolidations. How does Acumatica, Murray, handle these types of intercompany transactions?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. So Acumatica, it's fully multi-currency enabled, multi-company enabled. So one of the things, so yes, we handle currencies. Yes, of course, a lot of our customers, if not all of them, do business within different currencies, including US dollars or euros or different, whatever other currencies exist. Those are translated at, you can have an automated exchange rate feed, driven however often you want it. So the translation of the transactions will happen immediately based on current rates, or you can drive an exchange rate if you want it to be more based on a month-end rate. So that's one thing. In terms of translation of statements, yes, there's a utility to do that. I'd probably say the one thing that does differentiate a little bit with Acumatica is we can handle cross-border transactions seamlessly, including if you have, say, a Canadian dollar entity and US dollar entities, you can have those in the same tenant and allow that to coexist with shared vendors and shared, database setups. And what that allows you to do is that if you are having a cross-border transaction with a US branch, for example, you can have automated purchasing and sales order transactions affected in that scenario.
And I'm seeing one more question here. We are evaluating our e-commerce related options. Maybe could you talk a little bit about e-commerce with Sage 300? Are there integrated solutions? And then also, Murray, I'll let you address that after Mamie.
Hi. Yeah, that's where our ISVs come in, where our independent solution providers, vendors. So there are a couple of e-commerce solution providers. I think there's one actually that's part of the Sage portfolio. I'll have to check into that, but yes, there are e-commerce, because that's a big thing nowadays, is to be able to generate revenues from your website and have that integrate into your system so you can fulfill the commitments that are placed on your website. So yeah, there are solutions for that.
And Murray, could you?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, regarding Acumatica and e-commerce, I'll kind of put out, say, probably 3 different scenarios. So one of the things is, it's interesting, and it always comes down to, one of the things that we'll always do is ask a bunch of questions. When someone talks about e-commerce, we'll find out, what are you doing? What's the nature of your business? What's your transaction volume? Do you have a true e-commerce store? And how do you handle that? So depending on where they're at, might dictate what the solution looks like. But from an Acumatica standpoint, there's, say, 3 different options. So Acumatica, within its sales order module, you can track different order types, and depending on the volumes, you may just not need anything. You may just track it as a different order type. The integration utilities within Acumatica are excellent. So if you have a handful of transactions here and there, just use sales orders and move it in there. The second option would be Acumatica has a customer portal module, which sits on top of Acumatica, sits on top of Acumatica CRM and the distribution, which allows, this is a native module portal built into Acumatica to allow customers to interact directly with with a catalog and pricing. You can look at existing invoices and things like that. That's an Acumatica supported module. The third option would be if you do have a more robust e-commerce presence, and you may have Shopify or BigCommerce or maybe multiple Amazon stores and that kind of thing. Acumatica has connectors to each of those platforms. And if you have something different, then again, you can adopt different services to integrate with either a custom API integration or leveraging integration platform as a service type utility to integrate that. So those are really three, maybe four options of how to handle that within Acumatica.
And I'm not seeing any more questions, and we are right on time. Great job, you guys. Very informative. It's really nice to see how two solutions fit side by side and what to look for when you might need to make a change. Because, you know, last thing that companies really want to do is to have to change their ERP system. But when the time comes, the time comes. So it's nice to know that there's resources out there to lean on. And we will be following up. We did record this webinar, so we will be sending the recording to everyone who registered. And thank you so much again for spending your afternoon with us. We really appreciate everybody. Thanks, Mamie and Murray. Everybody take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.